We also realize that a lot of the things that are plaguing our sisters are being perpetuated by the systemic inequities. And that is something that we have to work for. There were attempts at having some solutions, and it realized that, for instance, in the African continent, you probably cannot have a solution that would fit all countries. And we started discussion on the fact that we may have to have local solutions. And that means there should be local engagement and discussions on that. It also became very clear that when it came to global health, there is this inverse relationship between disease burden and funding or opportunities to really do work. And it was very, there was a very passionate discussion on global health equity, that if we really would realize the precept of global health, no one should be left behind. No country should be left behind, and no issue should be left behind. And a few things came up that I personally have actually never thought about that. Language, English, French, Portuguese, and what have you, that there should be that equity also. And then funding opportunities. And even how we publicize global health findings, journals which are published. And Samaria, one of the speakers, actually talk about that if you do global health, you have to publish in Lancet or Nature before you can be known as a global health leader. That really got home to me. I've been working in global health, and I was hoping and praying that one day I would be a leader, not knowing that I will never be, because I've never published in Lancet or Nature. So Samaria, thank you very much for bringing that realization to bear to me. One thing that summed it all up, especially when it came to inequities and the challenges our sisters are facing in Africa, was this new cancer. Traditional gender role is now the new cancer of academic health and leadership development of women on the continent. How can we start to eat this away? Last but not the least is the effect of COVID pandemic on the girl-child education. And the speakers made us aware that this is very deep and it's going to have consequences for so many years to come, and that we have to do something now. There were a lot of the disadvantages that the girl child face, including harassment and abuse, the limitation of resources for online education, and the very easy traditional excuse for them to go help on the farm or market and let the boys go to school or use the limited resources available. This is something that we have to address. Post-COVID, I think COVID has been quite devastating, but it's also telling us that we really have to change what we do. There is a new world order that COVID had ushered us in. And I think this should help us in looking at gender issues, health, education, leadership. Lastly, we would look at the conference evaluation, and I'm happy to tell you that The speakers were rated very high, and thank you to the organizers for fishing out these wonderful, accomplished women and the men that moderated some of the sections. And the content were well received by the attendees. Most of them were very satisfied about, on my count of the surveys that I was given, it was like 85% of people were very, very satisfied with it. So that was really great. However, I would want to point out a comment that one of the participants put in the survey. When this person was asked, what did you learn and what are you going to do? The person put it only 2 words: nothing surprising. This have left me thinking a lot about what is going to happen after this conference. We have now seen through the eyes of she. How are we going to mobilize the whole body of she to make sure that some of the things that we've discussed would come to pass? So that at the next year, when we meet, nobody would have the privilege of putting nothing surprising, because all these issues, inequities, would have been attended to. And I'm so grateful to this person. On that note, I will now open up and invite you all to share with us all what are some of your reflections, what are some of the questions that you think are still unanswered, and what are some of the things you think we should do post through the eyes of she. Thank you very much. You can, if you have, you can raise your hand and we can unmute you to speak, or you can put it in the chat. Anyone? I'm left in this awkward silence. Am I doing something wrong?
No.
Please, then.
I know we've all been fairly quiet today, but this is certainly your chance to speak, and we'd love to hear from all of you. We have a lot of Yale represented, I can see, and non-Yale. Thank you so much, Prof. Feel free.
All right. So please, let's make a conversation. Use the last few minutes to really make this consequential. The first person to speak up would get 20 Ghana cedis from me.
I think Nadira Abdullahi has her hand up.
Okay, is somebody monitoring, because I can't see that? Okay,
yeah,
could
Nadira,
somebody help monitor that?
Yeah, Nadira, go ahead.
Okay.
Hi, Dr. Elijah. Thank you so much for such a wonderful conversation. I think my one thing would be, I hope that we have a better conversation about, reproductive health. I thought the session that we had about reproductive health emphasized abstaining from sex. So I hope that would be one thing that I hope moving on that we receive from this, that we talked a lot I think it was the panel for Kenya. We talked a lot about girl pregnancy, but I don't think we proposed good solutions for that. So I think moving forward, I would like to have possibly better conversation about that.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much for that. And I agree with you. And I think it's that is something that the conference organizers are noting, and then we would be able to get in touch with different people, the experts in this. And like we said earlier, we may have to have local solutions to this. It can be what would work in Kenya may not work in Ghana. And so, but how can we, as conference organizers and experts, really empower countries to do that? That's great.
I see. Hello, Michael.
Michael, yeah. Michael, I'll mute. Yeah, I'll mute and.
Let's see if I can unmute it.
Okay.
There we go.
Thank you. Thank you. I was struck, first of all, of course, all of the participants here were kind of preaching to the choir as far as things that need to be done. And I was struck by one of the presenters yesterday. It was in the fashion presentation, and the woman, I can't remember either her name or the name of her company, but she said that it was named after her husband. And she talked about how if it had been named after a woman herself, it would have lacked credibility and so forth. And I guess what struck me in that, and she, by her own admission, said she had to pick her fights in terms of the principles of standing up for women's rights, for not accepting insults, calling people out and the like. And I guess I'm wondering, how is a line drawn between standing up for one's principles? And I'm talking about the folks that are really in the field, that are making their living, that are not sitting, from academia, observing from on high. How do you recommend they balance standing up for that principle and earning a living and surviving?
Can anyone speak to that? Michael had ruled me out. I'm in academia and I'm sitting in my office.
Well,
So,
I'm sitting in my New York apartment, essentially retired. So it's sort of analogous.
Yeah. Anybody to speak to that, especially participants from Africa?
I think the moderator of that panel, Ayo Uko, is here and has her hand raised.
Oh, has hand up. Okay.
Yeah.
So why don't we unmute Ayo to speak?
Hi, Professor Pinstill. It's so wonderful to hear your voice and to see you. And I just want to say congratulations to you, Christine, and the whole team in really bringing us together. Deep, deep appreciation. It was really such an honor to have for me Ayamba Dejo. She's the CEO of Patrick Ayanksi Textiles. And it was really just an honor to have her share her perspectives. One thing I would say is I wish we had more time, and I look forward to opportunities where, we can maybe have more one-on-one occasions with these really exceptional women doing work on the continent. I'll try to speak to the comment from the kind gentleman. So in Africa, I think for many of us living there, we have had to build ways to survive in terms of, as women, just really finding ways to thrive despite the structures that exist there. So specifically for Fumi's a comment about naming her brand after her husband, I can resonate with what she was thinking. It can be extremely difficult, even given the resources that she has. She, you know, and I'm sure she mentioned it yesterday, that she comes from a reasonably comfortable background. But even with all those resources around her, she still had to make that step to name the company behind the, you know, for her husband, so that, you know, the first impression would mean that she has an ear with the people or the power that be, in terms of funding or just access to resources that she needs to build her business. So it's the reality of the life that we've had in Africa, and it's a true testament to the resilience and innovative and creative minds that the women have in really still finding ways to thrive despite all these constraints. I hope I've been able to say a little bit about that.
No, that is great. And Rose is still on. Rose, do you want to say something? You have personal experiences also.
We're getting her to unmute.
Professor Elijah, are you referring to Rose Clark?
Yes.
But I'm in academia, so
But
I
you
was
have wrapped, you are exceptional academics. You know all.
thank you very much. Yes, I didn't actually attend that session for the business and entrepreneurs, but I probably can understand why a woman, even as well accomplished, would name her company, you know, using her husband's name. I think that one of the things I didn't mention today in our session on higher education leadership is the fact that we are in some kind of a transition right now when it comes to gender and equity on the continent. And in that transition, women, a lot of women who have access to participate in spheres of influence, I think that they are being tactful in navigating that ecosystem. How do we, one, come to the table? Two, how do we stay at the table? And three, how do we bring other people to the table? And how do we move the conversation beyond just being at the table? So within all of those domains, I think that different women are reading the environment and having to make certain decisions to stay afloat and to charter a path where perhaps in the future, many of us will be able to name our own businesses using our own name. I run a university that was named after the founder, and the founder happens to be my adopted father. So a lot of people say, oh, you have a university named after you. I believe that, you know, if I had said, okay, I need this university to be named after Nanyonga, it would have been a completely different issue, I believe. And the battles I probably would have chosen would have been different. When I first was appointed as a vice chancellor, I remember waking up one morning and thinking, we need to change the mission. And in the next meeting with the university council, I said, we need to change this mission. And well, you know, my council, of course, had only 2 women on it, myself and the registrar. And I was told in no uncertain terms, it wasn't going to change. And so I spent about 6 months going back, walking that back, and trying to find ways in which I could influence that dialogue, the narrative, to get to the decision that I needed. And in the end, I did get the collective behind me, and we did end up changing the mission. But I did learn some lessons in that process, because I lost nearly 6 months in that battle, just because I hadn't been as tactful as I probably should have been. So I think we are understanding the landscape within which we operate, and we are having to make certain decisions to move the conversation forward and to move our agenda forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Rose, for that contribution. And again, I think we will carry this conversation forward. We can't do it all today, but we thank you all for your participation. And let us try to really name the elephant and start working on that. And this is just a commercial. Let me just plug that in there. If you are here and you are looking to name your company, you can use my name. That is accepted. Thank you very much.
Oh, goodness. Oh, my goodness. Thank you so much, Professor Paintsel. He is indeed the Africa ambassador to New Haven, a soft landing, really a friend and a wise advisor to really any African I think you'll speak to who's frequented this campus for 2 decades. So thank you, thank you. As for my part, words I heard the last few days about the meeting: insightful, inspiring, incredible, adrenaline. And I can say that I too have been truly motivated, challenged, and inspired to do more. I think each speaker, like all of you have felt, has been very poignant, passionate, and deliberate. And all of you are not just talkers, I think, like one of our attendees just mentioned, but really the doers, and your convictions were palpable. So we know that inclusion is needed. Education is a critical foundation. Policies to make equity in business and educational institutions successful places for women are a priority. We do need to remain adaptable to challenges of the 21st century, like climate change that we know will further worsen gender disparities, and of course, consequences of the COVID-19 pandemic. We need to remain humble in our partnerships and all of our endeavors, and to seek mentorship, maybe even from some you have encountered in this meeting. So I too echo Prof. Paintsel. I would like to turn it over to you, the audience, and countless others who will see this streamed later on. How have you done to date in advancing SDG 3 and SDG 5 to achieve gender equality and to empower women and girls? How about your colleagues and your institutions? How can they and how can you do even better? And for us at Yale, because as they say, charity begins at home, how can we do better to advance this cause? I don't know about you, but I noticed something striking today on the Uganda MUU panel, where the principal of a major health school in Uganda, one of the oldest on the continent, the dean, the immediate past dean, and the chair of the largest department are all women. It's possible. And it would be short-sighted to state that we want universal leadership by women, although what an interesting world that would be. Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe had it right when he said, women are Japan's most underutilized resource. Women are an underutilized resource. Let's use them more, promote them equitably, give them positions to lead. And yes, we too in Africa, we can do it. I think the urgency we sensed encapsulated from our 2 keynotes, who are bright lights on the continent and for the world themselves, and the outstanding capacity from this very small sample of speakers are just a taste of Africa's potential. I look forward to a world that makes this sample and the magnification of its voice the norm, rather than the spotlight that conferences put on them that celebrate them periodically. I look forward to a world that inherently sees their value without being told or reminded that it needs to be seen. And I hope that you all go forth today and create those opportunities, create those spaces, and continue these conversations. So in closing, in case you were feeling sad about the end of this meeting, fear not, we were too. And so we added some satellite sessions. If you will just pull up the slide, Megan and team. After today, we will have three, I lost my slide, sorry. We'll have three last panel submissions where we will highlight individuals from beyond the confines of the academic sector. We wanted to incorporate these sessions to really diversify the reach of our conversations, and they will be set up in a round table style workshop occurring over the next 3 subsequent Fridays. We will have a session on entrepreneurship next Friday, on the following on healthcare leaders from a mix of sectors. And then we will close on the final Friday with returning diasporans and change makers speaking on changing the mindset of Africa. The link will be dropped in the chat if we could kindly do that. You can also scan the QR code or maybe you can take a screenshot of the screen for later. We will certainly also share this information next week with all of our registered participants. If you could take down the slide. Thank you. All right. Thanks once again to our incredible conference committee, Nora Langat and Janet Rohina, who have been my right and left-hand women, as it were. Thank you also to the inimitable Eddie Mondry and Elijah Painsall. Thank you to Michael Capello and Jonathan Wurtson. Thank you to the Yale Conferences and Event team, Megan Paluzzi, Tara McHugh, who reflected on learning a lot themselves, especially pronouncing lots of new African names. You're welcome. And once again, we thank you, Jesse Kimodo, for designing our conference materials. Finally, thank you to our sponsors, the Edward J. and Dorothy Clark Kempf Memorial Fund, the Hakeem and Maima Bellagio Provost Fund for Promotion of Africa, the Yale Office of International Affairs, Yale Conference on African Studies, Department of Pediatrics Global Health Program, Yale Institute for Global Health, and the Yale Women's Faculty Forum. Thank you for sharing your time with us these past few days. It's been truly wonderful, and be well.